Rumi believed there is a secret reason most people cannot sit in silence for very long, because silence does something terrifying. It removes distraction. And when distraction disappears, people are finally forced to face themselves. The ego fears this moment more than anything, because silence exposes what noise was hiding. Look carefully at modern life. Everywhere you turn, there is noise, music, notifications, endless scrolling, constant conversation, endless stimulation. People wake up reaching for distraction and fall asleep escaping themselves, but very few ask an important question. Why are human beings so afraid of silence? Rumi believed the answer was hidden inside the ego, because the ego survives through constant movement, constant thinking, constant comparison, constant attention without noise. The ego begins to weaken, and this is why silence feels uncomfortable to so many people. Most people believe silence is empty. Rumi believes silence reveals truth, the truth about your fears, your loneliness, your unresolved pain, the emotions buried beneath years of distraction suddenly begin to rise, and for many people, this feels unbearable, because the world teaches human beings how to stay busy, but never how to be still. So when silence arrives, the mind panics. It starts replaying old memories, imagining future disasters, creating inner chaos, anything to avoid stillness, because stillness threatens the ego's illusion of control. Rumi often spoke about the false self, the identity built from approval, fear, comparison, and pride. This false self constantly needs validation. It wants to feel important, needed, admired, superior, and silence becomes dangerous to the ego, because silence asks a terrifying question. Who are you without distraction? Not your status, not your followers, not your achievements, not the role you perform for the world. Just you, alone with your own soul. And many people have spent so long escaping themselves, they no longer know how to exist without noise. This is why loneliness feels so intense in modern life. People are surrounded by stimulation, yet deeply disconnected from themselves, because distraction can entertain the mind, but it cannot nourish the soul. Only silence can do that, and this is why ancient spiritual traditions valued solitude so deeply. Not because isolation was holy, but because silence allows a person to finally hear what the ego keeps trying to suppress. The soul, its pain, its longing, its truth. Rumi believed human suffering often begins the moment people abandon their inner world. They become addicted to external noise, external approval, external identity, and slowly, they lose connection with the quiet wisdom inside themselves. But silence restores this connection, not immediately. At first, silence feels uncomfortable, even painful, because hidden emotions begin surfacing. Grief, regret, fear, emptiness, the things people spend years trying not to feel. But Rumi understood something ancient. Healing begins where escape ends, and silence ends escape. There is a reason some people constantly need entertainment, constant conversation, constant stimulation, because if silence lasts too long, they begin hearing the voice beneath the noise, the voice asking, is this life truly meaningful? Why do I still feel empty? Who am I beneath this performance? And these questions shake the ego deeply, because the ego wants comfort, but the soul wants truth, even painful truth. Rumi believed silence was not punishment. Silence was purification, a way of burning away illusion, because eventually a person becomes exhausted from endless mental noise, exhausted from pretending, exhausted from performing for the world. And in that exhaustion, something beautiful begins to happen. The soul starts longing for stillness, not entertainment, not validation, stillness, peace, truth. Imagine sitting alone in complete silence. No music, no phone, no distraction. At first the mind becomes restless, thoughts race everywhere, But if you remain still long enough, something changes. The storm slowly weakens, and beneath all the noise, there is a quiet presence, calm, aware, untouched by fear. Rumi believed this presence was closer to your true self than the ego ever was. But most people never stay silent long enough to discover it. This is why silence transforms certain people. Not because silence magically removes suffering, but because silence reveals what suffering was trying to teach. And perhaps this is why the ego fears silence so deeply, because in silence, the false self begins to disappear, and the soul finally has room to breathe. Tonight, sit quietly for a few minutes without distraction, without escaping, without trying to become someone else, and listen carefully, because beneath the noise of the ego, there is a deeper voice waiting for you, a quieter voice, a wiser voice, the voice Rumi spent his life trying to hear. If this message reached you at the right moment, leave a comment saying silence and tell me, do you find peace in silence, or does silence make you uncomfortable? The next Rumi lesson may change how you see yourself forever.